They fined me for dog walking on my ranch, so I bought their land and kicked them out. The sun dipped low over the Karen Valley, painting the rolling hills in hues of amber and rust. Elias Kane stood on his porch, his weathered boots creaking against the oak planks, watching his dog, Rusty, bound through the wildflowers on his 200-acre ranch. This land had been his family's for 3 generations, one, sweat-soaked, and sacred. But the peace of that evening shattered when a sleek black SUV rolled up his dirt driveway, kicking up dust like an omen. Out stepped Margaret Voss, chair of the Karen Valley Homeowners Association, flanked by 2 men in crisp suits, clutching clipboards like weapons. "Mr. Kane," Margaret began, her voice sharp as barbed wire, "you're in violation of Ordinance 47B. No unleashed animals on private property visible from public roads." Elias squinted, his calloused hand tightening around Rusty's leash. "This is my land," he said, voice low but steady. "Rusty's been running here since he was a pup. Ain't nobody's business." Margaret's lips curled into a thin smile. "It's the community's business. You'll pay a $500 fine, and we'll see you in court if it happens again." The men scribbled notes, their eyes darting to the horizon as if measuring his land for auction. Elias paid the fine, but the sting wasn't the money, it was the audacity. The HOA clique of newcomers who'd built McMansions on the valley's edge had been tightening their grip on the old ranchers. They complained about his weathered barn, his late-night bonfires, even the way his truck rumbled. Elias, a man of few words but iron will, decided he'd had enough. He spent sleepless nights poring over property records, zoning laws, and bank statements. Then he found it, a loophole. The HOA's land, including their pristine community center, sat on a parcel with a shaky title, vulnerable to a quiet sale. Elias cashed out his savings, leveraged his ranch, and, with the help of a sly lawyer named Clara who'd grown up on a neighboring farm, bought the entire 50-acre HOA tract in a single, ruthless bid. The day he served the eviction notices, the valley buzzed with fury. Margaret and her allies stormed his ranch, their faces red with outrage. "You can't do this," she shrieked, waving the notice like a flag of surrender. Elias leaned against his fence, Rusty at his side, and said, "It's my land now. Pack up." The crowd gasped, but Clara, standing behind him with a folder of deeds, smirked. She'd uncovered another secret. Margaret had been skimming HOA dues for years, funneling them into her own accounts. The revelation hit like a thunderclap, turning neighbor against neighbor. The HOA crumbled, its members fractured by betrayal. But then came the twist. At the height of the chaos, a soft-spoken woman named Lila stepped forward. She was Margaret's assistant, always in the background, her glasses fogged with nervous sweat. "Elias," she said, her voice trembling but clear, "I was the one who reported you, not because I wanted to, but because Margaret threatened to fire me. I've got 2 kids to feed." The crowd fell silent. Elias's jaw tightened, his victory suddenly tasting bitter. Lila wasn't the enemy, she was just another pawn in Margaret's game. A single mother caught in the crossfire of power and pride. Her confession shifted the air, exposing the human cost of their war. Elias could have pressed on, evicted them all without a second thought. His anger burned hot, fueled by years of being pushed around. But Lila's words lingered. He looked at Rusty, panting happily in the grass, and thought of his grandfather, who'd taught him that land wasn't just dirt, it was a promise to live right. The next morning, Elias called a meeting at the community center, now his by right. The room was packed, tense with anticipation. He stood at the podium, his voice rough but steady. "I'm keeping the land," he said, "but I'm not kicking out anyone who's willing to talk, not fight. We're neighbors, not enemies. Let's figure this out." The crowd murmured, some nodding, others skeptical. Margaret, humiliated, left the valley that week, her reputation in tatters. Elias turned the community center into a shared space for ranchers and newcomers alike, a place for potlucks and honest talks. But the victory felt hollow. Lila's kids played on his ranch now, their laughter mingling with Rusty's barks. Yet Elias couldn't shake the weight of what he'd almost become, a man who'd let vengeance blind him to mercy. The land was his, but so was the responsibility to mend what was broken. The Karen Valley never fully healed. Old grudges lingered, and some families moved away, unable to reconcile. Elias walked his ranch each evening, Rusty at his heels, wondering if he'd done right or just won a battle that cost too much. The wildflowers still bloomed, but their beauty felt sharper now, tinged with the ache of what could have been. What would you have done in Elias's place? Was his justice fair, or did it cut too deep? Share your thoughts on where justice ends and vengeance begins.